Welcome to the Purple Rock Podcast. We're discussing the best episode of Survivor in 23 seasons since the last time that rocks were actually drawn at Tribal. And I'm John. It's my co-host, Andy. Andy, are you ready to rock?
I was born ready. I was born ready to purple rock.
Unfortunately, as we pointed out last week, for those of you that listened through to the spoilers at the end, it was a white rock. So
White rock! Racists!
And it was the white rock against the black rocks.
And white is bad.
Okay, so anyway, very, very good episode, Andy. Did you agree?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's been just a string of it. We keep, we really sound like fanboys, you know? I mean, I guess we take the shots at Jeff Probst, but at the end we're all like, hey, that was pretty great, and that was pretty great. But this one was so great that it didn't matter that like 70% of it was already spoiled to going in.
Yeah, here's what I find interesting is that I think a big thing that Probst and the other Survivor producers are doing is thinking that it's the blood versus water concept that's making this season so interesting.
Or Redemption Island.
I don't think that they're thinking that. Well, you know what? They might be, because they loved the Brad moments earlier in the season, which were ridiculous. But I think they're so focused on this family aspect being a big part of what makes this season so good. And the reason these last few episodes have been so great is because everybody's playing the game really well. It has nothing to do with the family twist.
Well, these last couple episodes, no. In fact, in discussions tonight, people all seem to forget that Sierra still has her mom there as a potential to come back and change the numbers they were discussing. But I will give them some credit. I think one of the reasons why we're seeing such good and new and exciting strategy bouncing around is because for the first part of the game, there was a new strategic element that players had to deal with so that people couldn't just go on autopilot. And a lot of what we're seeing and some of the players that we're seeing is, and the combinations, is a result of that family stuff. You know, you don't get Jervis probably overturning his pregame alliance with Aris if he doesn't lose a loved one and then form a bond with Tyson. So I think the family member stuff was good. I think it made people have to think about Survivor in a different way. But yeah, now it's just survivors being survivors and making moves, and it's exciting, and it's everything we love about this show.
Right, but I think that in a vacuum, the family member twist, if you bring out all new players with family members, if they're not good players, you're not going to get a season of this caliber.
Yeah, I mean, no matter what the show does. I mean, all the show can do is just try to goose a few things, push people in certain directions, course correct here or there, but it's all about casting. That's success or fail all comes down to that. And when they find that gold and those elements combine in the right way, then you get a great season. And when you don't, then you either get a blah season or a terrible one.
And Survivor casting, if you're listening, I am the gold you're looking for.
I'll support that. Or you could, expand to other borders, and then maybe, everything isn't dried up yet.
So maybe I could just apply for Big Brother, and then they put me on this show instead?
I think that's how it works, yeah. You've been going about this all wrong.
That's true. And Probst did solicit people on Twitter to send in tape of themselves and their loved ones. So my wife could grudgingly stand there and be like, I'm not going on this stupid show as part of our audition.
That's right. And you can put, these are my children who would be abandoned while we were gone for 39 days. But we spent about 20 minutes, maybe more than 20 minutes last week discussing the end of this. So going into tonight, I'm like, well, what are we going to talk about? Because it's like we kind of already pieced all the different things out. Now, it helped that we didn't get it right at all. But it didn't matter. This was great stuff. And I think it mostly comes down to one person. And I'm going to put this question to you, and it's a big, bold statement, and we're recording actually the night of Survivor. So take that into consideration, recency effect and all of that. But Hayden Moss's play tonight, was that one of the greatest plays in the history of the show? If you just talk, I mean, obviously we don't know how it's going to end up, but just in terms of a single episode, one move. I'm not going to rank it. I'd need spreadsheets and all of that, but I'm willing to put it up there as one of the greatest, moves I've ever seen.
I like that you need a spreadsheet for that. Are you going to do some formulas to calculate how you're going to rank these things?
That's right. Yeah, the X, and we got to account for the variables of weather and field effects.
Surprise times 2 plus... No, he had an amazing game tonight. I was really impressed. I mean, not just with him. I was impressed with a lot of people tonight. But, yeah, Hayden definitely he showed exactly what you need to do if you're on the outs and you know that if you're not the next to go, you're damn near it. I mean, he scrambled and did a great job of doing it.
No, he scratched and clawed, and look, we'll be completely fair. There's probably a lot of people that also scratch and claw, and it just doesn't go anywhere, so we don't see it. But he tried one thing, and then when that didn't work, he tried another thing, and then he just kept trying. And the wheels were turning, and it's like, okay, well, let me try this ploy. I was like, okay, that's not working, and then I'll reverse and try this one. And it was just like, he should have gone tonight. In almost any other scenario, 9 times out of 10, we always see that, people trying, and it doesn't matter. It's just a show generating drama so that we don't turn off our TVs before, the next commercial break. He should have gone last week, in fact, especially when you see now, hindsight 2020. Caleb wasn't making any of these moves. So he did everything he could, and he bought himself 3 more days. And if luck of the draw goes a different way, he might have bought himself $1 million.
Right, and I had said last week it was probably the better move to get rid of Hayden over Caleb. I don't get why, and again, we're not out there, so we don't know, but I think the reason they were giving last week was Caleb was too likable. I'd be more concerned with Hayden being a bigger threat, but hey, that's me, and again, I'm not out there. Who knows what the situation was really like, but yeah, as we saw this week, it probably would have been much better to get rid of Hayden.
Yeah, I think it was one of those where their eyes were off the ball. They started looking towards the end zone before they completed the catch. They were thinking about Caleb in a final 3 scenario, not realizing that you still got to get there. And Caleb, for all the sweetheart things that I think people liked about him and feared about him, I don't think he'd ever demonstrated an ability to turn things around unless, I guess he did that one time, so maybe that was it.
Speaking of Caleb, so we did have Redemption Island on this episode, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about, because again, this was spoiled last week. We knew who was going home. The only thing that I want to point out, 2 things I want to point out about Redemption Island, actually. One, Caleb had a great joke, which my wife claims she saw coming a mile away when they asked, what do you and Colton have in common? And he said, well, we're 2 dudes.
Yeah, that was a good one. It almost validated the otherwise waste of time talking about Colton.
Yeah, it just seemed like Probst was fishing for something, although it was funny to hear Probst openly say, what the hell do you see in that guy?
Yeah. Probst's defense always is that he's the audience circuit. He's asking the questions that we want to hear, and in this case, yeah, that's the question that everybody's been asking, so way to anticipate that one, Probst.
Yeah, it is pretty funny that, obviously they record this far before it airs, but he kind of figured out, just so you know, everybody who's watching this, they're going to be thinking that. So the only other point I wanted to make here was, do you think if you're in this challenge, because I was thinking this as this challenge was going on, and you tell me if you agree with this, isn't the strategy to build up your tower to where you've got a decent lead on the other people and then just wait to see if anybody can catch up to you?
That's the strategy at the late stage. Early on, you just don't know. How big is ever going to be enough? So you build well and try to do what Laura did. Because who knows, if you just build it to a certain point, maybe you get the gust of wind that somebody else doesn't get. But late on, when he had the big lead, he should have stopped building. When it was obvious that his tower was structurally unsound and there wouldn't have been time to build another one, he should have just sat on it.
Right, and I was thinking, even with Laura, who was getting fairly close to finishing, I wouldn't have risked it. I would have stayed a couple rows away from finishing. They were so far behind that, really, again, you have to come in last to lose. So she could have just waited, and even if Tina caught up to her, so what? She's still getting on. The only benefit, really, that she received was that she got to give Sierra the idle clue.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is just that it might not be you that knocks it over. I think what you're thinking is don't upset it at all. And obviously the most likely way to knock it over is to be working on it still, to touch it. But, there are environmental factors as well. So maybe you just don't take the risk.
This is true.
It's kind of funny because they set it up really tense-like. It's like, oh, Tina, how is she ever going to come back? And honestly, if you'd been watching that unspoiled, you're like, yeah, well, Caleb then. Bye-bye, Tina. And then the freaking spoilers. It gave us so much to talk about, and it got us really excited for this week, but this whole episode was edited in the traditional Survivor way of what's going to happen next, and dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. And you gotta think the editors were just pissed off at the marketers for this one.
Yeah, I really do wonder what's going on in the editing booth at Survivor.
Well, marketing is different than, the creators of the show, right? The creators of the show are probably out there on an island right now. So it's one of those things. It's kind of like how a movie director can get totally screwed over by the advertising that makes, their drama looks like a goofy comedy.
Yeah, I've still never forgiven the producers or the marketers of Jack, that Robin Williams movie that was supposed to be a comedy, and it was about some kid dying. Come on. How is that a comedy?
All right, well, let's put that in our spreadsheet. First mention of the Robin Williams classic, Jack.
Hey, that's a deep pull for me, especially because I watch probably 2 movies a year. I don't know how I even knew that reference.
You'd think a Survivor podcast, if they were going to first mention a Francis Ford Coppola movie, it wouldn't have been Jack. You'd think Godfather maybe, but nope, Jack.
Anyway, we did mention that as part of winning, Laura M. got the idol clue. She gave it to Sierra, and despite my prediction last week that Sierra wouldn't be smart enough to hold on to it, she was, but she didn't stick the landing. She tells everybody the idol clue, which, again, was a move to build trust.
Doesn't tell everybody. She told her 3 allies.
I should clarify. Yes, she told everybody in her alliance, although it may as well have been everybody because very soon Hayden and Katie came calling and said, "Hey guys, what you doing?" So was that the right move to share that clue with her alliance, Andy?
Well, the way it worked out, no, obviously. I mean, Tyson has it and nobody knows he has it. But I think the process was fine. If you truly believe, and at that moment she did, and she also had the reason to believe, that you're in a Final Four, and that the idol can't be used at Final Four. So you don't have any intention of going against these 3 people? And again, this is process, not results, because she did end up going against them. Then your only priority then is to ensure that somebody outside of your 4 doesn't get the idol. Because that's the only thing that could muck up your game at that point in time. And kind of going back to last week's discussion of, was it smart for Sierra to sit out? And my point was, sure, because she was never going to win. Sierra was never getting up in that tree to get that idol anyway, so.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like the climbing type.
She doesn't seem like the do something physical type.
That is a good point. Meanwhile, Spider Monkey Tyson, in his natural habitat of a tree, climbs right up, finds the idol, and stuffs it in his pants.
All right, I'm going to actually, this is just occurred to me now. I've been thinking a little bit lately about bias and how, we as smart Survivor fans, when we go on our message boards and we talk about how, everything's always set up for Jeff Probst's alpha males and all of that. Well, I think we sometimes give it a pass when it's our favorite players. If this had been South Pacific and the idol had been hidden in a place that only Ozzy can get to, wouldn't we be crying foul?
I would be furious.
Isn't that exactly what just happened last night or tonight?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like how, it'd be a big outcry of how, Redemption Island is all set up for Rob to win, and that's the only person that got any attention. Or, Russell season is the only person that got attention. Meanwhile, pretty much from Final 7 on, John Cochran was the only possible winner because of the edit. But we didn't care because it was Cochran.
Right. Yeah, I don't care. I'm a huge hypocrite. Whatever. I would have hated if Ozzy had this same exact situation going on. Love it that it's Tyson.
So, I mean, they didn't hide it in Tyson's bag, but yeah, kind of close. But yeah, good for Tyson. He's got an idol.
So we get to the immunity challenge. Once again, immunity beast Monica tearing through this thing. She is the female Tom Westman.
Yeah, no, another great showing for her. I mean, basically, Jervis had a bit of an advantage in terms of time, and he just threw better than her. But she was right there, and she could have won if he doesn't make that last throw.
I was impressed.
And she's ripped.
She is jacked.
Yeah, the big common thing to talk about with her, and I've been just as guilty as anybody, talk about all the work she's had done and why, she's with her expressionless face and all of that. But she works for it, too.
That doesn't mean we can't make jokes, though. Come on.
Oh, no. I'm totally going to go back to it. But, good for her, I guess.
Right.
I'm not somebody who cares about my physical appearance, but bravo for people that do. I'm a person that talks on the internet. Clearly, I'm a troll.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, Jervis does end up winning immunity. Do you care who he picks to go on reward with, or to share his reward with?
At the time, I didn't. In fact, I thought it was a decent approach. I thought Monica was a good choice. Jeff bailed him out and like, hey, this pays you back for the burgers. My thing has always been, if I ever won one of these things with a reward, I'd just pick who came in second place and advertise it as that. It's like, they almost win. They deserve this just as much as I did. And then, I figured Tyson was just obvious, and I don't think anybody would have begrudged him. But, as the episode turned out, maybe it wasn't the right choice. Or maybe it's one of those situations where there wasn't going to be a right choice.
So again, we're recording this actually on the night of the episode, which is a rarity for us. And on Twitter, Jervis says that his initial thought was he was going to take Sierra and Hayden for this, but backed off and picked Monica. And then once he realized he had to pick a third, was like, I guess Tyson.
Yeah, and you saw it with him. I thought, if it was just Monica, there would have been absolutely no problems. Everyone would have been like, oh, yeah, cool, that makes sense. And also, there wouldn't have been other people to stir stuff up, because Tyson would have been there. Which is exactly, of course, why Survivor gave him one more person to choose. Hindsight, being 2020, it should have been Monica and Sierra. Tyson wouldn't have held it against him. Hayden wouldn't have had extra ammunition to use against them. But at the same time, I kind of get why he didn't do it at the time.
Well, now that we've covered how Jervis won immunity, let's get to Tribal Council, where he actually gets to use that immunity.
Yeah, it's when you have immunity necklace, suddenly you're all like, draw for rocks, let's do it, I don't care, draw for rocks.
Yeah, he got really confident once he got that immunity necklace around him.
Yeah, and actually we kind of saw Jervis from episode 1, and it kind of reminded me of why we didn't think very highly of his chances. He likes to gloat.
Yeah, although there was actually one revealing moment, too, before we even got to Tribal, was Jervis telling Hayden outright, no, I think I can beat Tyson at the end, and that's why I want to go to the end with him. Maybe, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that Jervis thinks that, because then it doesn't look like he's playing for second place. We all disagree with you, Jervis, but good for you for thinking that. I mean, I guess the way he would think that is that he thinks he and Tyson will share the blame, and that he will out-charm people for the credit.
I'm sure that's his strategy.
Yeah, but then we see a Tyson at Tribal Council, a Jervis at Tribal Council who kind of likes to gloat in his victories and isn't necessarily gracious to those people who are below him. And I don't think it played well with the jury.
I don't either. What did play well with the jury was Hayden's move, which they seemed to love. And actually, Vitas sent out a quick tweet about it, too, saying that he really did. He said that was the jurors' favorite part. He said they weren't allowed to talk, of course, but they were all digging Hayden's efforts at Tribal Council.
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically, Hayden was playing the underdog dream. Like, everybody on that jury, and which is why I wish there was 2 other people on that jury watching this so they could factor this in to apparently their very important decision. This was the dream. You're up against massive underdog odds, and you just lay it out there, and you fight, and you counterpoint, and then it actually works. And, just a few minutes ago I discussed whether Jervis blew it by not taking Sierra. If Hayden doesn't do all that at Tribal Council, I don't think that decision makes it at all. It was everything that Hayden was able to engineer and get the other 2 people to say, and then point out that they were saying it, that made Sierra flip. I'm sure she went into Tribal Council that night fully intending to vote Hayden.
So Hayden is scrambling. Probst is giving him every opportunity he possibly can to stay in the game, because this is what Probst loves. He likes when your back's against the wall and you'll do anything it takes to stay in the game. So he even mentions, hey, maybe you guys will draw rocks tonight, which I don't think I've ever seen him mention that before.
No, I mean, not since he incorrectly brought out the rocks the first time.
Yeah, it's not something they generally fish for. I don't think that they like when the rocks get used, or at least that was the impression that I had.
Yeah, I mean, that's why the rocks make sense, is that Survivor devised a way so nobody will ever do it.
Right, so it was odd to me, at least, to see him saying, like, hey, well, you could tie it up and draw rocks. But again, I think that's partly because Probst likes it when he can keep people who are scrambling in the game. He likes seeing people play really hard, and he's going to do everything he can to, throw them a lifeline, basically.
So do you think there was, a lot of interference here by Probst? Because I kind of don't. I mean, there were certainly moments where he did it, but I think Hayden was more quickly on the point than even, Probst was. Jervis would say something like 4, and Hayden was right there. See, 4. You're number 4.
Yeah, and I was actually just going to get to how badly Jervis blew it at Tribal Council. I don't think Sierra switching was Tyson's fault. I think Jervis really screwed it up for them, because his answers were not diplomatic in the least, and even though I honestly believe he was just counting right to left, 1, 2, 3, 4. When the whole discussion had been Sierra as a 4, don't say 4 and point to Sierra.
Yeah, I think it was what you said. I mean, she was the 4th person away from him, but stack that on top of the other things that he had been saying and that had been said and that Hayden was saying. Yeah, it was pretty damning. And as far as Tyson, I mean, I don't want it to be the podcast that gives him all the breaks, because there's plenty of those. He wasn't as to blame as Jervis, and he tried, right? He was whispering to Sierra, no, it's us, not Jervis, which, I mean, nice try. And he had to do it because I think Monica was also sitting right next to him. But if Tyson wanted to save himself, guaranteed from drawing rocks, the move would have been to cut Monica at that point.
Right, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, if you want to prove to Sierra she's not number 4, then vote out Monica. And then you've got 3, and the other side's got 2, and it's nothing. So Sierra wasn't wrong. She was number 4.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, I totally agree. She was number 4, despite whatever they were telling her there. I don't think that Tyson ever had her in mind as a final 3. I think he sees Jervis and Monica as people he can beat easily. I don't think that he sees Sierra as that big of a threat either, but no. I think he thinks it'll be easier to coast along with those other 2.
Well, I think it's just easier in that he can make the argument that was his loyalty. When the loyalty argument comes up, and it's like, oh, no, these were the 2. We all lost loved ones really early. We bonded. These are the people that I never betrayed. It's it's an argument that people always try to hang on to so you don't have to betray it. But this was a scenario. I mean, it worked out. Luck of the draw. He's fine. Everything might just work out from here on out. But yeah, if you want to prove to Sierra that she's not going home, then you flip your vote to Monica. And neither Jervis or Tyson were willing to do that in the 2 times that they had the opportunity to do so.
Right, which would have or should have sent a pretty clear signal to Sierra that, okay, yeah, you are 4 here. The one thing that came up, which I don't know if this has always been in the rules and it's just never been stated, did you realize that they were allowed to switch to a unanimous vote at that point after 2 votes?
No, obviously no, because it could never have come up. The only time they've ever gone to this level of tiebreaker, they screwed it all up. So, no, I didn't know that was a thing. I was kind of like, really? But it kind of makes sense. I mean, it just speaks to what we've always said. And by always, I mean this podcast and last week's. They don't want to go to rocks. They want decisions to be made. So they give you one last chance. It's like, all right, you guys know now that it's really, really going to happen. Unless you've got, 10 seconds here to just say that person.
Right. The only reason I was surprised is because I've actually read leaked documents saying what the rules of the game are and prize money and all that kind of stuff. I don't ever remember seeing anything about that, but it could be that I just kind of breezed over that section because I already knew about the tiebreakers. So who knows?
But yeah, and full credit to Hayden. As I said, I thought this is one of the greatest tribal performances, and not just tribal, but kind of like the one episode performances of all time. To go from completely out to flipping it out, potentially completely flipping the game, and at the very least buying himself some time. He had the opportunity because there was no blowback. Either he succeeds and survives, or he fails and goes home. Whereas somebody like Tyson has to not just try to win this vote, but not screw up the future votes. Which is why, Hayden could always just keep pushing the same argument, and Tyson or Jervis couldn't say, no, Monica's just a pawn.
Right, that's the benefit of being the underdog, is you have a few more options available to you. They don't always work, though, as we've seen in many, many seasons past. But in this case, it almost worked out for him. Were you surprised that Tyson was so quick to say, yeah, go ahead, let's draw rocks?
Yeah, no, I was just shocked. Like I just said, if you wanted to save your skin, like if he would have gone home tonight, actually, and I want to talk about that for a second, but yeah, if he would have gone home tonight, I wouldn't have been that sympathetic. You had a chance to not go home, and that was change your vote to Monica. And I don't even think that would have been that much blowback from him. Like, he would have still, I think, been in a majority 3. Sierra would have been like, thank you, okay, now I know I'm more important to you than her. And he wasn't willing to do that, and if he would have gone home, it would have been at least partially his choice, just like it was Katie's choice. And I'm sure she's fine with it, because for her, it had to happen. She had to win this vote, or she was going to lose anyway. That wasn't the case for Tyson.
Yeah, and this is where I wanted to get into the breakdown of what this meant for everybody. Because I think, again, much like last week, everybody kind of played this the exact right way for themselves.
I'd say Jervis blew it, but yeah.
Jervis was...
Because it couldn't... If Jervis just has a better social game in that moment, and I think this, I mean, again, just kind of in sports analogies or whatever, and to give Hayden the credit, he put them on edge, and Jervis responded to that in kind of an angry, kind of brash way. If Jervis handles it in a more calm way, if Jervis had done a better job until that point locking Sierra down, then it never goes to rocks.
I think part of the reason that he was so out of control at Tribal Council or not restrained was because he had that necklace and felt so immune, basically, which he was. I mean, there was no risk to him. So I think that kind of allowed him to do some things that he probably would not have done if he didn't have that necklace.
Actually, before we move on, and this is the point that I was kind of getting to. So if Tyson goes home because he draws a rock, this is my question, because we've had this question earlier, is somebody ever came back from Redemption Island, would it be legitimate if they won? Obviously, our stance has always been like, no. And then we had a question earlier, it's like, well, what if the first person came back from Redemption Island but survived the whole second and a half of the game? Your answer then was still no. Mine was kind of, but maybe. What if it's Tyson that went to Redemption Island in this scenario where he wasn't actually voted out, but he got rocks and then came back and win?
Okay, I will say that I'm not so hypocritical that just because it was Tyson, I'd be okay with it. But with the caveat that we're talking about this specific scenario,
yeah.
I mean, the drawing rocks thing, you weren't really voted out. So I tend to...
It's a tough gray area, isn't it?
Yeah, I tend to think that I'd be okay with someone in a hypothetical, not that she will, but so say Katie comes back having not really been voted out, but she wins the game after being white rocked in this instance. We'll still call it purple rocked. It's okay. It's
Purple Rock TM.
That's right. It's the expression. So if she comes back and she wins, which she won't, I would be okay with that. She wasn't voted out of the game. It was, and that's the beauty of the Purple Rock thing, is you become a target for not having votes on you.
I kind of agree. And the reason why I use Tyson as an example is because Katie would feel like a lesser winner for other reasons, in that if she had never gotten voted out and still won this game, it would have been like, really? Her? Whereas Tyson was gliding along, playing a really excellent game, again, not taking that away from him at all, and then just kind of went out by random choice. So if he came back, maybe that, like Redemption Island, would finally prove its utility in this highly specific scenario.
Yeah, but I will say, though, now that we're past that question, so glad that it was Katie that went home.
I am from like an overall game standpoint, in that the random chance didn't ruin the story of a better player. From this episode standpoint, kind of a little less so, because it's kind of a really bad anticlimax, right?
It is, because, I mean, it would have been more like a just reward for Sierra or Tyson to have gone home.
Yeah, exactly.
But...
like, yeah, and this isn't me like, the fake Tyson-Sierra, war we've had here, because I've never really been on the anti-Tyson side. But yeah, it would have been a lot more dramatic if it would have taken out one of those two. Yeah,
and this is where I actually have to finally give Sierra credit, which I've been slowly and grudgingly doing recently. Actually, maybe this should be our next question. Do you think Sierra's move was the right one?
I think it was the right move. I can't give her full points because she needed to be talked into it by Hayden for like half an hour. But she listened to the logic, and I'll give her that credit, because some people will listen to all the arguments and then still not make the move, especially in a scenario like this where they just be paralyzed by fear. Because she didn't have to do anything, and she would have survived tonight's vote. And so many people will do that in Survivor. They think by avoiding risk, they're safe. And in one sense, it's true if your goal is to merely survive. But there comes a point in Survivor where the risk matrix changes a bit, and it's no longer about the absence of a move keeps you safe. At a certain point, you have to embrace risk because it's the only way to win. And that's the point that Hayden was making. He wasn't using the same big highfalutin words I was just using there.
No, he certainly was not.
But he did a pretty good job in that you had to write your script. And it's exactly right. There comes a point in time in this game, and sometimes that point in time is much, much, much earlier than people suspect, that you have to make a choice in order to prove that you can win. And it would have been more powerful for Sierra if she had done it earlier. Or if she had even just made the play like after forcing the tie to say, ball's in your court now, Tyson. If I'm not your number 4, prove it. And I think the jury would have eaten that up. I worry that from a winner's perspective, this move, while she'll get some credit for, like, you know, putting it out there and taking the risk, all the credit's going to Hayden instead of her.
And I will say that I mostly agree with that. And after we had our discussion, I was thinking, like, to get full credit for Sierra's moves tonight, I would have said if she had made that proposal to Tyson, like, okay, prove it to me and take out Monica right now, then I'd say it was 100% the best possible move for her.
If she would have done that, I would have put her as the number 1 shot for winning.
Well, assuming that Tyson had gone through with it and booted Monica, then yes.
Yes, yeah. If she would have done that and it would have worked, because then she could have been in Power Alliance, and I would have put her. I think she would have won some votes that night from the people that were actually allowed to attend the final tribal council. But you know, one of the 2 people on the island, I also think would be prone to vote for her anyway. So.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. The one thing though is that basically she was guaranteed a 4, and that's what she would have been. So at 4, basically the only way she's going to make it to Final 3 is either a really solid pitch to someone else who won immunity or winning immunity herself, which seems like a long
isn't
shot.
Gonna happen.
Yeah. The odds on that are so low, given past performance, that I don't think you gamble with that. So I don't blame her. I mean, it clearly didn't quite work out the way she wanted, but I don't think it was necessarily a bad move for her to go to Rocks.
No, I mean, I would love to see a secret scene where she talks it all out. It's honestly probably something as simple as what Hayden said was making sense, and I could tell I was number 4. But yeah, being number 4 when you have no ability to get yourself to 3 is useless. So the way it shook out, she probably now moves down to one of the 5s because Redemption Island kind of messes that up.
Right.
But she had no chance of being even Final 3 unless she did this tonight. Rocks go a different way, and she would have. So
do you think that the potential for her mom returning entered her head as part of her decision to flip here?
I hope so. Because it's kind of the unspoken thing. And it's actually the one spot where I thought Hayden kind of missed an opportunity. Is that he could have been talking, with us, you're 3. He could have also said, with the potential of a 4th coming who would be more loyal to you than us, so that you could dictate who is in the Final 3. Like, he could have set it up in a way that it's like, if you come with us, you're guaranteed Final 3, and I'm not.
I'd still give him an A for his performance tonight, but that would have been the A+ move, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one where, you know, me sitting comfortably at home thought it out. And, I mean, I might have just had to just pause the TV and just go for a laugh. Because here's the thing, like, all season long, I've been, you know, the big Sierra champion because I have her in the Survivor game and we picked her in this. But I also have Hayden, so yay me! I got no points for his amazing play tonight, but still, it was nice to see.
Yeah, so Sierra's move, probably the best. I mean, I can't give it an unqualified yes. But again, not only was it probably worth the risk, but assuming that her mom comes back next, you're right back in the exact situation that you're in now, and you can do it again.
Yep.
Do you think it happens again? I'm leaning towards no.
Well, I don't think she comes back next week is the thing. I think they do the Final 5 and have a vote out, and then they have a new Final 5. So I think unless something changes, she'll still be in a bottom 2 minority even when her mom comes back. But I think something might change. I think the potential exists, you know, depending on how much you believe the previews.
I was going to say, we'll get to the preview discussion later, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think she's doomed now because clearly Hayden's the next target. He has to be. He could win and then she would go.
Right.
And then when her mom comes back, her mom would be the bigger target, right? So then it becomes a Final 4 scenario, and maybe in that whole time, enough fissures and cracks will show that she sneaks her way into the Final 3. Like, and that's the time that Monica and Jervis are finally ready to move against Tyson, who would no longer be protected by an idol.
Right.
For instance.
Although, as far as we know, at least, they are not aware that he has the idol.
Right. But actually, this kind of gets into our other big discussion point, so before we move on there, is there anything else about this episode that you wanted to talk about other than we freaking loved it?
No, I'll give Monica a little bit of credit here. I mean, I mentioned last week she has one type of game, and she's staying in her lane. She's doing her immunity thing, which she didn't win this week, but she came close enough. And she's staying loyal to her alliance. I do wonder if she does have a big move in her, if she sees the need to make one of those. And if she's laying low right until the one point where she has to make a big move, which would be kind of the Sophie Clark game from South Pacific.
Yeah, or even kind of the Danny Boatwright. Although that's a little different. She was the underdog play the whole way. But Monica needs to make one more move to have any chance at winning this. But yes, I have the same question. I'm just not sure she's the type of player that would make it.
Yeah, I don't see it in her, but kudos to her. If she's playing her type of game very well. I just don't see it as a winner this season.
And then one last thing before we get into the next discussion point, I just wanted to mention that there was some bad news in the Survivor community this week. The son of Tina and brother of Katie passed away, I believe, yesterday in a car accident. So while I'm sure they never listen to this podcast, and they really shouldn't today, condolences is all I can really offer there.
Exactly. Let's move on to happier topics, though.
Yes.
So I wanted to bring up for our historical discussion this week, because we had a crazy tribal council. What, in your opinion, is the craziest tribal council that you can remember? And before you even give your answer, I'm going to eliminate two, because they're so obvious as to not even need to be discussed. One being the heroes versus villains, Parvati's double idol play, which was amazing. And the other being last year's Karamoan, was it? Yeah, it was a double idol play there as well.
Yeah, I mean, Parvati's is like the way you just basically have to say, besides LeBron James, who's the best player in the NBA, because there's just no other point in having a discussion. That was just amazeballs, what she did. The way she anticipated, and I mean, she ended up not herself being immune, and she would have been the obvious target, but she, read out Amanda, and she read the tea leaves. It's actually one of those weird scenarios where, as it was happening, I'm like, the play would be to give it to, Jerry. Or maybe Sandra, maybe both, but nobody would ever do that. And she freaking did it. It was amazing. And then last year, it wasn't just that it was a double idol play by both Malcolm and Eddie. It was the announce, hey, guess what? We have an idol. Oh, and we have this other idol. We're voting for Philip. You guys got, 5 minutes to decide. And just the craziness going on and people trying to, strategize way out in the open.
And we did beat that horse to death talking about it, both at the AV Club comments and briefly here this season.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately it was the wrong, the end play wasn't the right one, but in terms of just pure viewership of Tribal Council, fantastic. It was something that had never happened before, and that's always great. When a show at 27 seasons in can be like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm seeing this.
They did not stick the landing strategically, but they certainly entertained us on the way down.
Yeah, and I think they had 15 minutes to land on a strategy with two people not capable of strategy. So
yeah.
And then, in honor of tonight, and the reason why we're discussing this, another big tribal council that we've talked about in the past and we'll talk about again and we'll always talk about is, of course, the first time that they went to Rocks. The original Purple Rock episode in Marquesas.
Yeah, I should have eliminated that one as well, because that was, again, too obvious a pick, especially given what we named our podcast. In Marquesas, it was a Final Four scenario, so it wasn't supposed to go to Rocks, and Probst later admitted, yeah, oops, our bad on that. But it was the first and, up until tonight, only time that the Rocks were deployed. And I'm trying to remember all the names. It was Nalia, Pascal, what was the lady's name with the P on the hand? Kathy. And Vesepia. I want to say that Vesepia was immune. Am I right in this?
Yeah.
Okay. So Vesepia was immune. The votes end up split between Kathy and Nalia. And they draw Rocks, which in this scenario, you're supposed to have the two people who are voted for immune when you draw Rocks, which would have left Pascal as the only person who could draw a rock, which is why you don't draw Rocks in that scenario. Anyway, Pascal ends up drawing the purple rock and goes home with no votes cast against him at that tribal council. So, crazy, memorable tribal council, especially for us, obviously. And now we've got another one to replace that, only with a different colored rock, which is unfortunate.
So yeah, if Heroes versus Villains is the unquestionable best, this one is my favorite, and it's Fiji. Fiji gets a lot of heat, probably deservedly so, as one of the worst seasons of Survivor. I'll flat out admit, for the first half of that season, I was doing the whole thing do I keep watching this show? What am I watching this for? And as I discussed earlier, it's because of the terrible haves versus have-nots twist. But my absolute favorite episode all time of Survivor happened in Fiji. And it was in the second half. And it basically led to what I thought was a pretty successful second half. So if you're really a Survivor head, I think Fiji is worth watching, if maybe just for this episode alone. There was a lot of great moments leading up to Tribal Council, but Tribal Council itself had a lot of explosions. And that's kind of when we were thinking this topic over. And thank God for the spoiler preview, so we knew what our historical discussion would be. A lot of the big moments, kind of the heat and all the excitement happens before Tribal Council. And then Tribal Council itself is just kind of executing the plan that we saw at least pieces of. Fiji delivered both the pieces before and then what was happening. So what happened is it wasn't the very first post-merge Tribal Council, because they did a weird merge and then split off into two teams for immunity, and then only the team that lost went and voted. So it was like a merge but not. So that took out one person. But for the first time that everybody together was voting one person out, man, Fiji was just a collection of bad ideas. But yeah, so the first time everybody's going together, so we have two idols in play. I'm just going to divide. I never know tribe names except for the most famous tribes. So I'm going to call it the good guys, which was kind of Earl, Yowman, Boo, Dreams, Cassandra, and Stacy on one side. And then the bad guys are on the other side, and that was...
The Four Horsemen.
Yeah, the Four Horsemen. There you go. Alex, Mookie, Edgardo. Actually, I think it was just those three. They thought Dreams was the fourth horseman. So they have this big plan, the not quite Four Horsemen. Mookie had the idol. He's the one that, when they were all looking for it together, put his hands on it first and dug it up. So then they all figured out that they were going to vote for Alex. And the reason why they thought that is because when the other side was thinking about what they were going to do, they told Dreams that they were going to vote for Alex. No, they told Dreams they were going to vote for Mookie, I think. I can't remember. They told Dreams something. He goes to the...
The point is they told Dreams,
yes.
Which is a bad idea.
No, but they told him the wrong thing. They fed him misinformation. And then when Dreams came back, he thought that they were voting Mookie. That's actually what happened. So Dreams voted Mookie, and he was out on an island in that one. Because the rest of them, after Dreams went away for his other flakiness, was like, you know what? How about we just vote Edgardo? Because they knew that Mookie had the idol, and that the first play would have been to give it to Edgar, or to Alex, because he was kind of the head of the alliance. And this is before people figured out, vote splitting and, voting for the least likely target, which is kind of standard Survivor gameplay at this point with idols. Fiji is what kind of invented it. So they all voted Edgardo, and for the first half of the season, as we discussed, it was kind of awful because it was a lot of awful people. Mookie was an awful person. Alex was a smug guy, and Edgardo was, almost as smug because he was the second-hand man. All right, so they go cast the votes, and then Alex gets up all smug, and he's like, haha, I'm playing my idol, and kind of shoots the look like, yeah, gotcha. And then there's a vote for Mookie, and they're like, eh. And then I think they show some of the votes that the other side had. I think they put them on Cassandra. And then Edgardo. And they're like, one vote, no big deal. Second vote, Edgardo, and his jaw just drops to the floor. And it was fantastic. And all the smug just drains with the blood from Alex's face. And it had everything that you like from Survivor. It was just fantastic gameplay, a new type of moment, and the bullies getting it in the end.
And actually, my pick for this is from a season that I didn't watch, but I've seen the Tribal Council on YouTube. Thank you to the Funny 115, which is a thing that you can Google. For those of you who are big time into Survivor, I'm sure you've heard of it, but Funny 115, they break down the funniest, according to this guy's, funniest moments in Survivor history, and he's broken it up from like seasons 1 through 11, and then he did a second round of them. But he pointed out a Tribal Council in Vanuatu, which I'd never watched that season. I do know the outcome of the season. So at a certain point, there's one male left, and it's Chris. There are 6 women. Chris is assumed to be the target. He eventually realizes, wait, there's huge cracks in this all-women group. And at some point, he teams up with one of them. I think it's Twyla. And then slowly but surely, they figure out, oh, hey, it's going to be Eliza next and not you, Chris. So Chris sees an opportunity, goes and tells Eliza, hey, Eliza, they're going for you. Goes all in on her, convincing her, no, you don't understand. They're going for you. Come with me. We'll flip this game around, blah, blah, blah. Amy, who is basically running the show at this point, goes into Tribal Council, assumes she's perfectly fine, sort of like smugly says, like, oh, maybe it's Eliza, maybe it's not. Just brushes it off because, again, she feels like she's in a power position. It doesn't matter to her. So, as the votes come up, Eliza's name comes up first. Amy looks over at her, gives her this smug, condescending, like, yeah, just so you know, it's you tonight. And then the votes keep coming. And it turns out it wasn't Amy because she was immune. But they took out one of Amy's alliance members, and you can just see the look of horror on Amy's face as more and more votes come in. It becomes more and more clear what's about to happen. And just before the hammer drops on that final vote, Eliza looks over at Amy, gives her that smug, condescending, yeah, just so you know, it's not me, look. And Chris, who's sitting right behind her, is just loving it and winks at her and smiles all around, at least for the ones that got to remain in the game. So to me, that's the type of tribal council moment that I enjoy watching.
Yeah, I mean, if anytime you can get a tribal council moment with an Eliza reaction, it's probably pretty good. I'm not even that interested in Eliza as a player, but I love her as a tribal council participant. I will say I've obviously seen that season because I've seen them all. It's often portrayed as this was Chris's move, and he certainly was the person that went to Eliza with it, but it was Twyla's move. She had to actually do the math for Chris a few times over. Because he was all like, well, there's nothing I can do about it. There's only you. And it's like, well, no. If they all are going to vote Eliza. Because what happened was, it was the Loved Ones episode. And his wife was there. And they didn't win, of course, because they didn't. But everybody, the other one were so touched by Chris's reaction with his wife. They were like, you know what? We'll give him a few more days. Eliza's a bigger threat. Which is kind of a lesson, is that you finish business when you can finish business. Don't mess around. Yeah, so that was a deep poll. I like it, because I hadn't thought about that. Where I thought you were going with it, because you were talking about funny tribal councils, was Gabon. This wasn't a big strategic one or anything like that. But when they played Bob's fake immunity idol, that was a pretty favorite moment of mine.
I will say that, and I didn't bring this one up either, but the fake immunity idol from the original Fans versus Favorites, the It's an Effing Stick idol.
Another Eliza moment.
Yes. Yeah. Eliza would have been involved in both of my selections. That was my runner-up.
So just basically to pull a prank on him, Sugar gets Bob to give his very elaborate immunity necklace to Brandy, who is just this misanthrope, just awful angry guy who had been, talking stuff to Sugar the whole time. And, I guess after the fact, she wasn't the plucky underdog we thought she was. But he was still kind of a big jerk to everybody. And so he's all still going off. In fact, he came up with the genius plan of, I'm going to be worse to these people this week, so they'll vote for me. And I'll get Bob's idol. And then, he gives it to Jeff, and he's like, this ain't an idol. And they just laugh in his face. I mean, nobody in that season kind of covered themselves in glory. The more I think about it, the more I think it might be the second worst season of Survivor ever. But I love that moment, because as much as I'm, an analytical player, like to think about all the different ways people can win, which is what we're going to do next, I still like it when jerks get their just desserts.
Yeah, sometimes the show is just funny and entertaining for other reasons.
So I've kind of teased at it a couple times, how we're going to spend the rest of our time, because no voicemails this week, no guest interviews, because really, you want to listen to us talk on a week of rocks. A mental exercise I typically do, especially at this point in the season, is I try to think of what each player could do to win. Now, I want to clarify that in many cases, these will just be mental exercises. These won't be like, I think this person really has a legitimate chance, but it's more like, what ways would the cards have to fall for this person to be successful? And even in that, I think there's at least one person, maybe two, where my answer will be, there's nothing. There's nothing this person can do to win.
Yeah, I'm at 2 for that. Well, maybe 1.
Yeah, again, this isn't our predictions for who's going to win, or we think they're going to win, because there's editing kind of also tells you that certain people just don't have a chance because their story hasn't been developed enough. Although I will say, for this group of people, that doesn't apply to a lot of people. I think they've done a pretty good job in telling the stories of at least 5 out of the remaining players.
Yeah, we've been pretty balanced so far this season. I think there's some obvious candidates here that have gotten a lot of screen time.
But in terms of, what moves could still happen, because it does happen. At this point, most people wouldn't have thought that Natalie White was going to win. In fact, probably at no point until that last vote was read that a lot of people thought Natalie White was going to win. We didn't think Fabio was going to win at this point. Probably, maybe not Danny Boatwright or Vesepia either. So it can turn around for people. I think the editing's gotten a little better, that they're not going to completely blindside us with a random one. But sometimes they just fall in love with their pets. But yeah, so theoretically, what would need to happen? And I think we'll start with the easiest one. What would need to happen for Tyson to win this game?
Exist to the final 3.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty the simple question. Make the final 3. I'm going to put a caveat on that. I no longer think Tyson is the player that could beat anybody in a final 3 situation.
I mostly disagree. I don't see anybody that could... I mean, I see people that could potentially challenge him, but
Okay, at what point did you ever think that anybody was going to beat Tyson in a final 3? You're kind of in the bag for Tyson, right? This is my point. I think if he faces Hayden in a final 3, Hayden wins. Because the jury completely ate up what Hayden was selling. He's basically living their dream right now. So that's 3 guys right there. Katie would make 4. Not hard to envision that Tina would vote with Katie. So that's 5. That's a win. That said, I don't see a scenario that Hayden and Tyson are ever in the final 3 together. It's one or the other.
Right.
So the earlier point of make the final 3, yes, if Tyson can make the final 3, it's because Hayden didn't, and then Tyson beats anybody else.
Right. So let's move on to Jervis. What do you think Jervis has to do to win?
I don't think Jervis has a shot to win.
And that was the other one I was going to say. Is I had 2 that I don't necessarily see a way they can win. Jervis is the one I was debating as the second. I don't see it. I mean, it's possible. He's a charming guy. Maybe he could out-charm Tyson in a tribal council scenario. I don't see it happening.
Yeah, prior to tonight, I could have envisioned scenarios for Jervis to win, and basically that. I could have envisioned him out-charming people, but as I said earlier, I think he completely blew it. I think they saw him off his game, or at least the ones that were allowed to attend, and this was the chance. This was also the opportunity. The other thing would have been take out Tyson, make the big move. He had every opportunity. He was immune. People were approaching him, and he wouldn't do it. So he's not going to take out Tyson. And at this point, I don't think there'd be actually even an advantage of it. He takes out Tyson, and he gets taken out, right?
Right.
And I think the jury just aren't as charmed by Jervis as he thinks. Well, his big thing to try and, keep Sierra locked down was that we turned on people that turned on us. That's absolutely untrue. Aris never turned on him at all. And you saw that both Aris and Vetus were kind of taken back by that. Well, bro, not us.
You think Aris and Vetus are the bro types?
I think they are a little bit, yeah. They're yoga bros. So he's in a final tribal against Tyson. He's going to get the blowback, and there's no argument that Jervis can make that Tyson can't make better.
Right, yeah, so I don't see it with Jervis. And I'm guessing your other no possible chance candidate is Monica?
Yeah, kind of for the similar reasons. She has not done enough to distinguish her game, but honestly, I don't think she's my other no chance. I think the theoretical Monica play is to turn now. And
get rid of Tyson.
Get rid of Tyson, yeah. She can keep Jervis. In fact, I think she would need Jervis as somebody that could take the heat. So then if it's her, Jervis, and Redemption Island returnee, I think she has a shot. And then she gets to make her argument of, I played my game. I was loyal when I needed to. I made the big move when it suited me best. I competed in every challenge. I was told at one point by, you, Tina, and maybe it was when Tina puts the question to her, that I was now number 5. And that wasn't acceptable to me, and now I'm number 3. So I think that's enough of a story that it gives her a shot in this hypothetical configuration of people she would go against.
I think it's
I would say it's a slim chance, but I'd put it at a less than 0. Whereas I can't think of a single argument that Jervis can make or configurations of players that he could go against that he would get, a plurality of votes.
So who was your other person that you're saying is a 0 chance?
Tina. So that's the thing. We have to remember there's still 3 people on Redemption Island. They still count. In fact, let's bang those out right now because that would be pretty quick. So do you agree with Tina, or do you think she would have some kind of
Tina's
shot?
0 chance.
Okay, what about Katie?
Also 0 chance.
See, I think it's the chance that they've been talking about with her all along, that the people she was originally aligned to would like her. I think they would feel like she got a raw deal with The Rock, so bravo for her for digging her way back and then flipping the game on its head. So that's the thing. If she could somehow survive the final 3, that would be semi-impressive. And I think, like you saw, Caleb's kind of pissed. So that's a possible. So it would be kind of the bitter jury play combined with, hey, I didn't know you had it in you.
Nah, I think she gets her mom's vote. That's about it.
All right, and then Laura M.
I don't see it. I mean...
Again, this isn't whether it's likely. I'm saying, what would she need to do?
Yeah, what would she have to do? I mean,
obviously the first step is
come back. Yeah, she has to do that. That's kind of crucial to winning the game. Beyond that, I mean, I think she would have to get into an alliance with Sierra, obviously, take a majority position, and then I think if she cut Sierra and went to the finals without her, I think that's a hero move that, well, not hero move, but we'll call it that, a ninja move that might get her some respect from the other Survivor players.
So if she takes out Sierra, who would she have to sit next to?
I don't care. I was really coming up with just her move that could potentially get her a win. I mean, even then, I think you're talking long odds, no matter who she's sitting next to. But I think if she can add that to what they were calling tonight her resume, I think that helps.
Yeah, see, I think her resume would all have to be built on self-reliance and pluckiness. You know, you guys tried to kill me, I would not go away. I think she, as earlier discussed, she could not face Tyson and she could not face Hayden. So that leaves Jervis, Monica, Sierra. So in your scenario, I think it would be Jervis and Monica. People very angry against Jervis, lukewarm against Monica, have to vote for somebody.
Now, Hayden, I think, can win depending on who he's up against. Again, like we said earlier, if it's Tyson, he's not going to win. But again,
you said that earlier. I said if it's Tyson, he does win.
Yeah, well, whatever. You're wrong.
I also said he's never going to face Tyson, but...
Yeah, well, we at least agree on that point. I'll edit out the part where I disagreed with you. No, I won't. I'll forget to do that. Anyway, I think Hayden can beat several people left in this game. I don't think Tyson's one of them, just based on the moves he's already made. And presumably, just to get to the final three, he has to have made some sort of move. So that kind of takes care of itself. Just him getting there requires some sort of action on his part to have placed him in that final three.
Yeah, see, for me, I think Hayden is also get there. I think he beats anybody. But the bigger discussion is how can he get there? And that's going to be the tough one. So kind of the way things shook out tonight now, he's in the minority against 5. So the whole discussion is, can Hayden get there? And what would he need to do? The first step would be win immunity. Obviously, yeah, if he won every immunity between now and then, he's golden. And I guess that could be actually the scenario where he would face Tyson. So, yeah, if he wins 3 immunities, I think he wins $1 million. Because I think he would have no blood on his hands. And I think people would have been very impressed that, A, he won out. That always wins you at least one vote. Sorry.
I think you overstate the no blood on the hands argument, though. I don't know how well that actually plays with juries.
I think some blood on the hands will lose you at least 1 or 2 votes, unless there's just no other option. But otherwise, why did Sandra beat Parvati?
Well, I mean, Rustle is clearly a blood on the hands person. Parvati,
yeah, no, let's throw out Rustle. Russell's never going to win, so he's not worth discussing. Why did Sandra beat Parvati?
I don't know that it's entirely in-game related that they didn't vote for Parvati. I think the fact that she was targeted early on in that season by a big group seems to indicate that maybe there was some out-of-the-game dislike for Parvati.
But I don't know how many of those people were on the jury. I don't think any of them were.
Some of them made it.
But only the ones that were put there after. Everybody else was taken out pre-merge.
There would have been Jerry, Coach? There was villain.
I don't think Coach was on the jury.
Did he not make it? I'm trying to think of who.
No, he was taken out pre-merge.
I was trying to think of who their 5 that they went in to the merge was. Anyway,
Danielle, Jerry, Sandra, Russell, Parvati. So there's only 2 villains.
I totally forget Danielle because she's such a non-entity. Anyway, we're getting way off track here.
Yeah, but why did Fabio beat Sash and other dude?
Because Nicaragua was the worst season ever.
And because he had no blood on his hands, and they liked him. People will give votes to the person they like, because as much as we like to think that the emotions don't come into play, they are high on the island there. We saw Jervis blow up his whole game because Hayden was fighting for him. Don't hate the player! This isn't Big Brother! Like, that's an emotional moment, and it's why up until they went to a Final 3, in a Final 2 scenario, the person who voted out, the third person, always just lost their vote. Like, I don't think they ever got that person's vote.
If I'm the promo editor for this episode, I'm editing this so that it's just you saying, they got high out there.
We should do that. Promos. We'll give away all of our secrets for next week's episode. So, yeah, how does Hayden get there besides winning immunity? They have to flip Monica, and this is where we can discuss the preview for next week.
So actually, we didn't get to your pony for the season. We didn't discuss how Sierra wins, although I don't think we don't need to expend too much energy on this.
Well, it's kind of the same scenario. It's they need to flip Monica. Sierra can't get there unless Monica changes her mind. It doesn't have to be for Sierra. It doesn't have to be this next episode. If Hayden doesn't win immunity, it would be him. If the returnee from Redemption Island doesn't win immunity, it'd be them. So she could, provided immunities don't go the wrong way, Sierra could finish number 4 anyway, but she'll need somebody to vote her way. And I think at this point, Monica's the only option. So why would Monica do that? It kind of goes back to the earlier discussion. If Monica wants to win, she has to make one more big move, and that is to take out Tyson. Because taking out Jervis at this point isn't a big move.
Right. So from the previews, we get teased that maybe she is actually going to do something. I don't tend to believe that. Do you?
I don't see why she'd do it now. I think there's one time where Monica could make a play because maybe she gets rattled enough. Maybe Sierra works enough social game like we saw in the commercial that, she throws enough shade on those guys. It's like they don't respect you. They're taking you because they know they can beat you. That, they've been saying all this stuff about you. And I don't think it would be enough to sort of save Hayden because basically Monica would be trading Final 3 for Final 4 at that spot. But Laura M comes back in the game, and now you got kind of an all-female alliance, and Monica's looking at her chances of winning, and it's like, maybe I have a better chance of beating Laura M, 2-time vote-out victim, and Sierra, the win-nothing flip-flopper that people maybe don't like, maybe take some heat, rather than Tyson Jervis. Like, that'd be the time that Monica could flip, and maybe. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that Sierra was going to flip this episode until she did.
And that's really her move, is you have to do something at Final 5, and ideally, if it was Sierra and Laura M that she could align with after flipping on Tyson and Jervis, that would be great, because I think it actually benefits you to go to the end against a family pair. Because I feel like they're very likely to split votes. If they're getting any votes at all, they're getting votes split between them.
I think a traditional family pair, that'd be true. I'm not sure if this particular one, just because who's voting Laura M? I almost worry in Monica's case that Laura M's final argument would be too close to Monica's final argument. Not everybody gets to make the argument that I dominated this game and it was all mine for the taking. So sometimes your final opponent isn't about just taking the worst players, because sometimes there isn't that many bad players, or sometimes it's not your choice. What you want to do is take people that can't make the same argument that you want to make. Because if your argument's one that the jury's going to eat up, then you don't want somebody doing the same one. It's kind of why I think Kim stuck to her final alliance with Chelsea and Sabrina, because there was nothing those two could have said that didn't apply to Kim better. I think it's why Tyson is sticking with Jervis, because there's nothing he can say that Tyson can't say more.
Right.
So with Monica and Laura M, I mean, I guess the thing is like, well, I didn't get voted out, so how about that?
Yeah, that's basically Monica's play.
So yeah, and that would be Sierra's path to victory too. Like I said, she can't beat Tyson, she can't beat Hayden, and she can't get herself into the final 3. So she would need to flip Monica and then pair with the returnee from Redemption Island. And I would say no matter who comes back from Redemption Island, any of those would make sense to want to pair with Sierra. Of course, it would make sense for anybody at Redemption Island to pair with somebody that's willing to do so.
So tune in next week to us, of course, after you watch the episode. And if in the meantime you'd like to give us a voicemail, you can reach us at JR Purple Rock on Skype. We love getting your voicemails. Again, we couldn't get to them this week. We had so much to talk about anyway. And also didn't even have room for a guest, which we'd initially planned but had to bail on. Or if you'd like to, you can hit us up on Twitter. We're at Purple Rock Pod.
And you can send us an email at purplerockpodcast@gmail.com.
You should tell them about the Tumblr thing, because I never know how to explain it.
You can follow us on Tumblr. The benefit of doing so would basically be so you could find out when we are posting new podcasts. That's purplerockpodcast.tumblr.com or purplerockpodcast.wordpress.com. One note on next week. There's 2 survivors next week. We got your normal Wednesday episode, then the whole thing wraps up on Sunday. So I think the only way that we can get this podcast to you in time for you to listen to it before the next show happens is we're going to make it a short one. So if you do have any comments, make them brief. And we still would like them, but we're going to have to try to have a quick show next week.
Yes, we are, because we're going to have to get it edited and posted in time for you to listen to it, because I know you'll need to.
Yes, when we make our final predictions of who's going to win. Spoiler alert, John's going to say Tyson.
Oh, you gave it away. What are you, the editor for this season of Survivor?
Spoiler alert, Andy is probably also going to say Tyson. So who's going home next week?
Let's go with Hayden.
Yeah, I guess we can do our typical first vote, second vote. Yeah, Hayden is the only target at this point. And obviously they show him trying to flip Monica. He should absolutely try it. He's proven himself as somebody that will try every avenue until he's gone. But like I just said, I think she would need a lot more. In that earlier discussion of there becomes a time when you need to accept risk for a chance to win, I don't think Monica's one of those players that'll do it. However, if he wins immunity, then it's Sierra.
Yeah, not a lot of drama in this next vote, I don't think.
Unless we're wrong, because, hey, a lot of drama tonight.
I don't think so this time, though.
All right, so you're listening to the one and only Purple Rock podcast. Bring the Purple Rocks next time with you, Jeff. None of this White Rock stuff.
Seriously, how much does a can of spray paint for Purple Rocks cost? What is it, like $3? Come on, CBS production budgets.
Yeah, and I think Hayden brought up that they were potentially willing to go to Rocks. He should have been like,
yeah,
come on, where's Purple? It's your gimmick.
More importantly, it's our gimmick.
And speaking of, since this actually was a big week for our randomly named podcast, give us a mention on Twitter if you're so inclined. Tell the world the injustice that we just missed out on being the Purple Rock.
Yeah, in the only season since season 4, when the rock was actually used. And it's not purple.
Well, life is full of disappointments. So until next week, I remain Andy, he remains John, and we remain tremendous fans of this show.
See you guys next week.